As parents continue to grapple with the challenges of the coronavirus pandemic, the cost of childcare has increased 47% during the pandemic. That's according to the Center for American Progress. So how should families go about making the difficult decision of finding safe and affordable childcare given the options available to them? We spoke to the CEO of Upfront to share more details on this.
It's a challenging time for parents looking for safe and affordable childcare. So help us through the thinking of what parents should consider.
Absolutely. I mean, the first step for most parents, even before the pandemic, has really been, is it near my house or apartment, and can I afford it? Those are just sort of the two big criteria points. And, after you clear those, you move on to the next step of safety. The first question should be is, what measures are you taking to protect our children? How big are the group sizes? What is the protocol for if there's a COVID exposure, and how long will you close down for?
Give us a financial insight on what quality childcare should look like.
Absolutely. And, it's so hard in New York, and you're always hearing about how expensive childcare is. And I can give you some numbers, from our own database. And the average in New York City is about $2,000, which is $24,000 a year, and that's a lot of money for most families. And you're obviously seeing Manhattan be a little higher at around $2,300 a month, Brooklyn and Queens at around $1,900, Staten Island lower at $1,400. But even then, those represents very big expenditures for most households. And I would say, one of the best ways is obviously beyond our site is find out where your friends are sending their kids. And that's oftentimes where we've seen parents get the best recommendations.
Now, daycare versus nannies, which option is better if there is one?
It so depends on the family. It's really down to what you can afford and what you value. A lot of people don't have the choice, but if you do have the choice and financially everything's on the table, if you have a job with long hours, you generally prefer a nanny because of that flexibility. But parents of children who are a little bit older, usually 2+, actually prefer daycares because it gives the kids the socialization and the structure that they need before they go to preschool.
In terms of education and what the child curriculum will be, what should parents be looking for?
It really depends. So a lot of daycares operate under different educational style like Montessori, and it really is that, the parents should really ask themselves, what do we value? Do we care about socialization, as much exposure to different age groups, children learning from older children, but other parents like a more play-oriented style, and it's a little less structured, and that's just what their child does best. So what works for one family doesn't work for another. What we've seen is that there's been a pretty big exodus of families leaving New York City to the suburbs. So there's actually been, on the nanny side, quite a few nannies now available that were, usually working with other families. And then with daycares as well, what ended up happening in the spring is that everyone pulled their kid out of daycare and is now searching for something new. So it's actually been more availability than ever, which is a great opportunity. If you want to send your kid to a daycare, they used to have a year waiting list. You're now actually able to get a spot.
Dana, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us.